You don't technically need this car. You say that out loud to yourself. You say, I have no space. You say, I'm just looking. Then you click. Then you zoom in on photo number 87 and whisper, oh no. Then you text a friend, the one who always enables you. You say to yourself, this is the last one, knowing it is not. You don't need this car. But maybe, just maybe, this car needs you. Bring a trailer. It's never just a car.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about positive vibes here on the show. And with me right now, I've got a very special guest. He has worked for the WWE, WCW, and numerous other promotions. I'm pleased to welcome the one and only Jimmy Yang, a.k.a. Jimmy Yun. How are you doing today?
Howdy, Stanley. It's your boy, Jimmy Wang Yang. Actually, today I'm James Yun, Yun's Time. I'm doing good. My book just dropped today on Amazon.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, crazy. I'm who would have thought the Asian redneck would be an author? Just kidding.
Who would have thought? Just the odds, right?
Yeah. But yeah, it's dropped today on Amazon, and the audiobooks on Spotify, Apple, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so it's kind of crazy day. So, but good.
Very exciting. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for being here. You've got a very interesting childhood. I was doing some research on you. You're from California, Los Angeles area. Tell me about your childhood and upbringing.
Yeah, I actually was born in Hollywood, California. My dad's from South Korea. My mom's from Georgia. Childhood was pretty messed up, but so it's like, my Korean family lives in Los Angeles. American family lives in Georgia. I always ask this question, like, everybody has like a dysfunctional family, right? That's what everybody says, but I kind of always top their dysfunctional. Like my parents kind of got divorced around like when I was like 10. My dad chose his new wife over his kids and took off. My mom is a dedicated Jehovah's Witness. Like she's hardcore. Like she's, she would knock on your door every Saturday, judge you for everything you do and tell you that you're living wrong, so like, and then my dad was an immigrant, so he was a painter most of the time, and then my mom was a waitress at Shoney's restaurant. So like I grew up on food stamps and ramen noodles, so like kind of rough. I have three sisters, one brother. We had a two-bedroom house. So it was yeah, wasn't pleasant. So it was kind of rough, so
Well, as a kid, you grow up and you learn the meaning of a work ethic, a strong work ethic. Start, devoting yourself to your passions, and it just so happened that it was professional wrestling. Was wrestling something you had watched as a kid? Were you more drawn to sports and then fell into it later? What's your story like with
so
professional wrestling?
okay. So, I grew up in a very poor household, right? So like we had a TV, but we didn't have cable, but we had, just the local channels. But we also like had a crappy TV, so we had the antenna and the aluminum foil and all that kind of stuff. So crazy. But we only had really two channels in Atlanta, Georgia. Like we had PBS and TBS. If you know TBS, it's Atlanta Braves baseball and WCW wrestling. So like that's the two things I loved, and like uh, once I watched WCW, like when I first saw Sting, I was instantly hooked. Like that was my dude. That was like kind of like my father like figure at that time because like my dad took off and I was just like who to look up to, and Sting was the ultimate good guy. So like I
Yeah, it was a superhero. Kids
yeah.
loved him. Uh, Very appealing drawing. A lot of fans enjoyed watching him. Did the Make-A-Wish, signing the autographs and all that stuff. Uh, no better babyface during that period of time.
Yes,
All
I agree.
right. Well, what was it about Sting to you that made you go, I want to pursue this as a career? How do I get into the business?
So when so around my sophomore year in high school, like I was a pretty good athlete. So like I was playing all the sports, but also obsessed with wrestling, so like sophomore year in high school, like, okay, what do you do after high school? Like everybody, a lot of people going to college and all that kind of stuff. Like, I only graduated because I was really good at sports, and the teachers passed me because I'd win the games, so like, I knew academically there's no way I was going to go to college, but I did get offered to play baseball, so like, so so I got offered for baseball, but the sophomore year, I'm like, man, what would be the coolest job to have as an adult? You know, Baseball player would be cool, but being a professional wrestler would be awesome. So like I loved wrestling so much at the time. It was like the Monday Night Wars time. I was obsessed with it, and that's decided after the plan was after high school to go join the WCW power plant, but things kind of came earlier than that. So that's kind of
You made your debut in 1999. Walk me through the training process because it is hard to be a professional wrestler. You got to put so much work into it, sacrifices, and it's intense going through the process. What was your story like learning how to wrestle?
so actually so I started in 1998 actually. So like I was still in high school, and it's kind of faith happened, like destiny, all this kind of stuff, whatever kind of analogy. So me and my best friend Ryan Forrester was obsessed with wrestling. We did backyard wrestling. We did the nitro parties. Like we used to go to the shows, stalk the wrestlers. I know there's a story out there, a crazy Halloween story. When I was 16, like we found out DP lived in this neighborhood, but we didn't know which house he lived in. So we all dressed up as wrestlers, went to every house until we found him, and he was super cool, changed my life, all this kind of stuff. Uh, but went back to high school, and I was on the basketball team with my best friend Ryan, and he got kicked off because academically. His grades wasn't good, so he got kicked off, and then he started going to church more. And there was an independent wrestling promoter there, and Ryan made friends with him. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, me and my buddy Jimmy, we wrestle in the backyard all the time. We love wrestling. We want to become wrestlers." And the guy's like, "Why don't you come with us? Why don't you come and train with us?" And I was like, and Ryan went the first week, and then I followed him the next week, and we got in that ring and started wrestling around. We started practicing on Monday. We had our first match on Friday, but that's not a good way to start wrestling. But the training and that's not the professional way. But then after that, and got signed to WCW and went to the power plant, and that kind of like that woke me up. And I tell everybody, and it's in the book, and said the power plant made me into a man. So like that training schedule was Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Just imagine training wrestling for 8 hours a day. Like it was just crazy. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And yeah.
It's a very rigorous schedule, and you have to really discipline yourself. I've had on quite a few people on the show uh, that trained at the power plant. It was no joke. You literally had to discipline yourself as much as possible to move up to the next level. Uh, any pieces of advice that you got from your trainers that you can recall and you've still applied to today after professional wrestling, after your time with the WWE ended?
Yeah, the biggest thing I learned from the WCW power plant is never quit. Never give up. I don't care how hard things are, how hard life is, just never give up. Never, once you give up, it's over. But like they pushed me so, like Paul Orndorff and Sergeant Bailey Parker pushed me way past my limit. I didn't think I had it in me, and they would not, when they wouldn't let me quit, and they just pushed me like as just push me, and never let me give up, and never, that's kind of the biggest lesson I learned at the power plant and professional wrestling is just never give up and never quit.
When you started appearing on television, I'd imagine it'd be nerve-wracking because you're being seen in front of millions of people around the world. You're performing in front of big crowds. What was that first match like for you in WCW? Were you nervous? Were you afraid? Did you start developing that confidence?
Yeah, no, I was terrified. I was like, it was so, like, remember, I'm just an 18-year-old kid, like it, and like I got the call to come to Saturday night to Amherst, Massachusetts. I was like, where the fuck's Amherst, Massachusetts at? I was like, what? Like, okay, I'll go, like, but I don't know, I don't know how I'm going to get there. I don't know how to, check in at the airport. I don't know how to get a rental car. I don't know how to do, hotel. I don't even know where Amherst is, So I'm like, but thank God for Shark Boy. Like he saw me at the airport and he saw me lost and he helped me and he took care of me that first trip. So then going to Saturday night. So I told you before, I grew up on WCW Saturday night. This was my show. That was my number one show. It wasn't Nitro or Thunder, or wasn't Raw or any WWF shows at the time. I grew up on that. So I was like, man, I cannot believe I'm about to be on this show. Then I go there and like, I kind of told you how we used to stalk the wrestlers, and me and my friend was so crazy about wrestling. And
Hmm.
I go into the building and I'm like still such a fan, I'm such a mark. I'm like, oh my God, there's a Viano 4 and 5. There's a Armstrong brothers. There's a Juventud Guerrero and Psychosis. There's a, El Dandy, all these guys. I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I'm here. Like this is crazy. So, so real, and then, uh, and, I was terrified, and even I didn't even know how the TV production worked. And thank God, then somebody told me, say, oh yeah, just go to the board and see who you're wrestling, and, I remember looking at the board and I didn't see my name, my full name, James Young. I saw down there it said James Carson, and Carson's my middle name, so I was like, that's got to be me, James Carson, right? Like, And then you look across the board and say, who you wrestling versus the Demon, Dale Torborg. I'm like, oh yes, because Dale was at the power plant with me. Like we're friends. Like, oh man, this is awesome. I get to wrestle somebody I know for my first t television appearance. And I was like, oh man, this is great. So I see Dale and we put this match together, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh man, I can't, so excited, nervous, scared, everything like that. And but then it's my time to go out. So once I walk through the curtain, it's kind of crazy. I don't know why this happens. All the nerves and everything goes away. And I'm just in the moment, and then we have this match and then we did a great job. I feel like we did a great job. And then we got back and say, oh man, that was great. You guys are going to be the main event for Saturday night. I was like, what? My debut? It's like main eventing WCW Saturday night. That's crazy, So that was
It's surreal.
yeah, seriously, bro.
Now, how long were you with WCW? Were you there until it closed?
Yeah, I was on the very last Nitro, but like I signed I'm the youngest wrestler ever to sign with WCW. I signed in June of 1999. I turned 18 in May. So I was like May, June, and
Wow.
then I had my contract at graduation. But then I went to a power plant and then actually I got fired in 4 months and I thought I lost my dream job. I'm like, oh my God. And then I got that call from Paul Orndorff for Saturday night out of the blue, and I was not kind of out of the blue because I met him the week before to kind of beg for my job back, and then and that happened. So and then
What happened? What happened during that period of time that where you got let go? Was
man, that hit me hard, like because that's all I wanted to be as a WCW wrestler, and I got my dream job, and I went there and I did everything they told me to do, and got there early, stayed late, did everything, and but I didn't understand the politics of wrestling at the time, and because I was part of an Eric Bischoff project, and then he took a leave of absence, and then everything that he was attached to took a leave of absence, so like and that's why I got released because I was part of Eric Bischoff's project.
but you came back and you stayed until WCW closed, shut down. That had to have been hard because competition, I feel like in wrestling is very important. It's good to have alternatives and a variety of different promotions, places for people to work. And when WCW shut down, a lot of people were devastated. Do you remember where you were when you heard the news about WCW closing and getting bought out?
Yeah, for sure. So remember I was only 19 years old, and so that last Nitro was in Panama City Beach, Florida. So like my buddies found out, like it's like, oh man, dude, you got the Nitro down there. Nitro down there, and we're gonna come down like a week early. It's 19. It's spring break, and you're a WCW wrestler. So like get special treatment with my boys down there, and definitely did. So like went down there like a week early, uh, you know, Club Avila and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm still underage, but like I'm a WCW wrestler, so go right on up, And I remember like Steve-O from Jackass was there, and I remember he was in the VIP area, and then he was acting like a jackass, and Sean O'Hare like military pressed him and like threw him up against the wall. So crazy, all this kind of stuff. But anyway, it was a crazy week or a crazy few days, and then all of a sudden, like we go to Nitro. We heard a rumor that WWE bought the company, but like we didn't. I didn't believe it. Like it's WWE bought WCW. That's crazy. But then that taping walking into the building, they had all these WWE signage on the walls and wasn't used to that. I'm like, whoa, I've never seen that before. That's kind of crazy, and then they said, oh, okay, we have a talent meeting come up soon. So everybody go to the locker room. And then we're all sitting in the locker room and all of a sudden Shane McMahon walks in like, whoa. And then Bruce Pritchard and Briscoe's right behind him. And I was like, oh my God, this really is going on, So
Now, were you one of the original initial people that got picked up by the company?
yeah, I was. And then like even at night, like we had our match, and they, I found out they picked up my contract, and then like what I used to like to do is after my matches, I would like to go sneak in the balcony or somewhere to watch the show live because I like that live entertainment and that live feel of the crowd and all that kind of stuff. So I'm out there watching the angles, Vince versus Shane, WCW versus WWE. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. And then they pick my contract up and I'm going to be part of this. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be epic, like this is going to be awesome. And then I go back to the back when the show's over and everybody back there is just a lot of people just crying and breaking down. I didn't really understand as a 19-year-old, but 90% of this company just lost their jobs and their
Mm.
livelihood. So I was like super excited about the wrestling angle, and they picked up my contract, and then I walked back to the curtain and realized that like all these people have to look for their future and to change their livelihood and everything. So it's kind of happy and sad, So
Yeah, it's never good when somebody that you've gotten to work with over the years, is no longer around. So many people that you've gotten the chance to work with, are gone. Starting with a clean slate. But you were with WWE for quite a while. You were Keo for many years on SmackDown, and then eventually Jimmy Wang Yang, which I think was it's probably one of my favorite characters during that time. And you played it really, really well. Let's talk about that because how did this character, this gimmick of a Asian American redneck come to be? How did you get presented with that character?
this is a crazy story, So like me trying to get laid turned me into Asian redneck. So so uh I was doing Ring of Honor. I was Ring of Honor, but I met this really hot, beautiful lady, and WWE was coming to Lexington and I was in Cincinnati, so I was going to try and impress her, like, oh, it's just an hour and a half drive, I know everybody there. I'll hook up free tickets and, like I'll just wine and dine you and all this kind of stuff and like trying to impress her. So when we get to the building, like I go backstage to go find the tickets and me and Vince cross paths, and he's like, Jimmy, where the hell you been? I'm like, you fired me? The what? I did. Oh man, we got to talk about this. I'll be back. I got to go do this rehearsal. I'll be back to you. I was like, did he not know he just fired me? Or he just fired me like 2 months ago or 4 months ago or whatever it was? He's like, man, that's crazy. But then I started thinking about this is Vince McMahon. He's a billionaire, runs a billionaire company. Of course, he's going to let some things slip through the cracks, So I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense, like whatever. And then I go to catering. I'm eating a steak, and all of a sudden, like people run into me and say, "Hey, Jimmy, Jimmy, what you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?" I was like, eating steak, eating steak. What does it look like? Say, hey, can we need you at ringside? Can you come to ringside? I'm like, okay, so I go to ringside and this is the pay-per-view Vince versus God.
Uh,
There's something with Spirit Squad and Shawn Michaels. So they were rehearsing the bump for Shawn. Spirit Squad was all throw him up in the air 20 feet and go through a
mhm.
table. And me and Sean are the same we're about the same size. So I said, Jimmy, do you mind doing this? I'm like, whatever, But then Michael P.S. Hayes said to Vince, like, hey Vince, Jimmy isn't under contract. Should you let him do it? And he's like, yeah, he should be under contract. Let him do it. And they threw my ass in the air, went through the tables, and Sean asked, how was it? And I was like, yeah, it's okay. You're not going to die, So it's like, it's cool, And then they said, all right, well, we'll talk to you later. So go back to catering, get the tickets, finish my steak, and then I'm like, oh yeah, now I'm going to go meet the girl, And then they say, hey Jimmy, can you come to Raw tomorrow? I was like, oh, it's in Columbus, but like what my original plan was is to have a freak fest that night. So I was like, okay, what? I was like, oh, okay, oh yeah, I'll come to Raw tomorrow. So so I went to Raw, walked in, and then they was like had a uh put me in a match on Sunday Night Heat with Charlie Haas, and we went out there and we had a great match, and then I thought it was over, and then it's like, oh, that was great, whatever. And then they come to me again, and say, hey, Jimmy, can you come to Cincinnati tomorrow for SmackDown? I'm like, you know what I really want to be doing tonight? But yeah, I need to think about this, and like, okay, I'll come to SmackDown tomorrow. And then when I walked into SmackDown, like they got me and say, hey, yeah, we're going to hire you back. And I was like, this is crazy, like I know you didn't don't know the story, but like Jimmy Wang Yang, I've been fired. I have a record for being fired from WWE, me and Marty Jannetty. So like the first time was after WCW, and then Keo, and then Keo got fired, and then this is my third time with the WWE. So I'm like, man, I need to go thank Vince for this, because it's not it's this doesn't happen. I hire somebody three times, so knock on the door and like, hey Vince, I was, oh Jimmy, get in here, whatever, ha, ha. Hey, I didn't even know you was fired. But last time he was here, I didn't let you talk because you're this Korean dude that grew up in Georgia. It's like, okay, and said, but this time we're going to make a negative out of positive. I'm going to make you the Asian redneck. That's funny. And your name's going to be Jimmy Wang Yang. It rhymes. Like, yeah, I'll do whatever you want as long as that check comes every Monday. I'm cool with it. Say, oh, okay, cool. I'll be there Monday, and I'll get out of my office. Wang Yang. It rhymes.
Wow.
Yeah, but Jimmy Wang Yang got me four action figures, baseball cards, and up on a video game. So like, how cool is that? Like, I don't, like it's whatever, like, goofy character or whatever it is, but like, hey, you see that thing on the wall? I got those magazine articles right there. So it's like, yeah, I can play myself on a video game. That's the coolest thing ever. So
You had a pretty good theme song too. And who
I
taught
I, I didn't like my theme song. So, but I know people do like that theme song. But
you didn't like it?
yeah, it didn't just like, I like it, but it doesn't get you hyped up to really punch somebody in the face. It's like I need some, like, if I'm about to go out there and perform, I need some juice.
What's your like ideal entrance theme if you had to pick
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, I like Save a Horse Ride a Cowboy for Jimmy Wang Yang. Like that's more upbeat than like the Jimmy Wang Yang theme. I'm gonna punch you in the face tonight or something, something like that. Like it's like not, it doesn't have a good or upbeat beat. So
Let's talk about the dance moves. Did you do that? Did you come up with that yourself, or did somebody walk you through like the two steps? The
I just remember my best friend Ryan. He used to do this little scuffle all the time. Every time after he should have after like every time after he made a shot, he'd be like, "Ooh," I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." But like it also, I have been a few country bars and started seeing the line dancing, and really how I first came up with it. But everything's line dancing is similar to the Cupid Shuffle and the Wobble and Cotton Eye Joe and all these kind of line dances, just like 1 2 1 2. So like but really I remember listening to Honky Tonk Badonky Donk
Yep.
by Chase Atkins, and he go left, 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 right, left, and I kind of put that was the two step, but like the little shimmy was from my friend Ryan, that every time he would make a shot, he, oh yeah, baby. So, yeah.
So those are some pretty good influences, that fused into the character, which I think is pretty amazing. And you got to work so many people over the course of your career. Who have been some of your favorite opponents that you've gotten to work against over the years?
Like I got a lot of favorites, like my favorites wrestling Hurricane Helms or Chavo Guerrero, but like the match that I show it, when people ask like which match should I see, I said put the Jimmy Wang Yang versus Rey Mysterio, like that, that's the one I like to show off. I'm like because Rey Mysterio's the GOAT of cruiserweights, and like I said, look, who you like more? Like tell me like okay, like because it's like a level thing because like I'm going toe to toe with one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and like if I can be at that level, I feel like I belong at that level. But that's in WWE, but like in even Japan, like I got to wrestle the Great Muta and Kawada and Tenru and that was crazy, crazy seeing these guys across the ring from me. I'm like, oh my God, it's kind of crazy. And like there's a lot, but I guess like my favorite opponents are Shane Helms or Chavo Guerrero, but also Rey Mysterio. So,
Yeah, being around the great Muda, I mean, talk about someone that I feel like is revered by so many people and admired by a lot of different fans over the years. What was it like stepping in the ring with the great Muda?
yeah, it was crazy because really he's one of my childhood heroes. Like Sting was number one, Great Muta was number two. So like I've been loving this dude since I was little. And but it's just crazy. Like like I'm just this. I feel like just this poor kid from Austell, Georgia. I'm standing in the Tokyo in the Corrigan Hall, like and the Budokan. The Budokan's bigger than the Corrigan Hall, but and standing in the ring against one of my childhood heroes. Like that was crazy, dude. Like it's like pinching myself. I'm like, am I really here? Like, and that's even there was another match too. When Ric Flair came over and I had to corner him and but he got sick or his leg got hurt and it was like I'm at to stand ringside with Rick while his son's in the ring versus the Great Muta. I was like, this is crazy because, you know, as a kid, I hated Ric Flair because he was the bad guy, right? Always against Sting and, Four Horsemen stuff. But in the business, like, oh, now I understand what you was doing. So I love you for it, like, and but like, I'm like standing right next to him while he's chopping the young boy. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy, And then I see Mood over there, like, misting somebody. I'm like, wow, this is a pretty awesome moment for myself.
You know you've made it when you're in the ring with legends.
Yeah.
And those are some pretty incredible highlights getting to be in the ring with two icons. Now, I want to switch gears and talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of wrestling. I know you've been involved with a lot of charity organizations that have helped out in the community. What kinds of things have you done to help out over the years?
So this kind of hits me kind of hard, right? Like because you know, going back to like the book in my childhood and we was like the poor family in the county, right? Like and then also my mom's religion, we didn't do holidays and birthdays, all this kind of stuff, but like but uh school would nominate a Secret Santa or something like that, a Secret Santa like
Hmm.
in a local business, the tire shop, the
Yeah.
James Tires in Austell, Georgia. But I just remember this moment so much because everybody's having presents, all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, man, I don't, you know, my parents don't celebrate Christmas. That's why we don't have gifts. But the real reason is because we don't have no money, And then I just remember them pulling up on Christmas, and the Santa Claus comes out. I'm like, oh my God, and then, like it's so awesome feeling for me. Like they're bringing me toys and Ninja Turtles and WCW action figures, and they Secret Santa our house, our family. It was amazing, So like that's something I always remember. So like, but what I would always try to help out a family that was around that was, needed that time. It's like if I was doing really well financially, I'd go get a bunch of gifts and drop them off at their house and all that kind of stuff. Like, and that's how I try to do that every year, but like, you know, some years are better than the others, so it's like,
That's pretty cool, when people are, can't afford presents or, or going through a hard time. There's nothing like being there for someone that, is not able to get that. And so being able to be there for someone, it means a lot. And you
it
were able to
really
provide
does.
that for them.
And it really does. And I have that personal, like that when that happened to me when I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old, that was like so great. Like it's amazing. So like, I try every Christmas to try to help somebody out, so.
Was there a particular moment when you were doing the Secret Santa uh, program that was heartwarming? Anything that you remember, like reactions from any of the kids that you
Yeah.
were with?
It's just all about the reactions. It's not about the praise or I'm not like because this is the first time I'm telling you, nobody really knows I've done that. Like that's like a personal thing. Like it's not I'm not trying to do it to get pats on the backs or anything like that. I just remember that feeling when that tire company pulled up with their trucks and Santa came walking out. I'm like, oh my God, that's awesome. Like this is amazing. Like that's just, like I just, they don't, I don't even have to be there. I just get to talk to the parents afterwards and like, oh yeah, they loved it and send me pictures and all that kind of stuff. That's, I don't want any people like the first person I ever told like telling you that I did this kind of stuff. It's like I don't want the recognition. I'll do this, and you just tell me afterwards, and
Well,
you
it's
know
a it's something that people will remember though when you've touched their lives, because they'll remember that you've created a memory, a moment for someone. It's got to feel good, when you're paying it forward and giving back to someone and helping them out. There's no better feeling like that in the world.
yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah,
Jimmy, before we go, you had mentioned earlier you've got a brand new book out. What made you decide to write it, and where can people find it?
for years, like a lot of friends, a lot of close people to me said was telling me I should write a book. Say, what? I don't want to write it. Like what? Like and really, because they was like, man, you have such a great story. Like you really, you overcame a lot. Your childhood is kind of messed up. Your dad leaving, your mom in the cold. Like, and you guys poor and all this kind of stuff. And it's like then you became a WCW wrestler. Then you became a Japanese wrestler. And then a WWE superstar. Like it's like you going from here and dodging all the obstacles to get there, like that could really help somebody. I'm like, and personally, I'm like, I don't know, like, can I help somebody? And then, they've been like, yes, you can. Your voice, like people admire what you do for a living, like, and they'll listen to it and they'll feel comfortable, like, if they're going through the same situation that they can get out of it because you did. I'm like, really? So I'm like, okay, like so I've been thinking about this for like 20 years, like 15 years, I think, and like it took me forever to write this, and then finally put pen to pen the book, so like yeah, I wrote it that hopefully, somebody that's going through similar situation as I did, can believe in themselves and push themselves to make it to wherever they want to make it to, so.
What's been the reception like to the book so far? Have you been able to share it with people before it's been officially out?
Only person that's read it is Jazzy Yangs, my daughter, so like I let her proofread it because she's, so smart and so much smarter than I am. Like with, hey, Dad, you're missing this comma here and this apostrophe and all this kind of stuff, so like and then you're kind of repeating yourself on this, so like she was my proofreader, so but
And sh
I want this to be real and it's coming from me, like this is real talk, a real story, So like I kind of wanted to put it in my own words, but just I'm not the best with grammar. So that's like I needed, some help.
And is she in the business too? Is she looking to become a wrestler?
Yeah, she's the prettiest, the meanest, the baddest mofo, no doubt, around here. She is Jazzy Yang, the Show Yang of wrestling. Yeah, she's killing it down in the South. She's has a kind of a crazy story. First of all, her dad's this goofball here, but then she debuted at 15 in Tokyo, and
Wow.
yeah, and then she beat Shannon Moore's ass. Like she was part of a tag team with me and my old partner Kaz Hayashi. But and then she got instantly hooked because people were going crazy for her, and I was like told her when we got back and said, well, you have to, kind of graduate, you have to graduate high school first before you learn professional wrestling. And then COVID hit. We didn't have nothing to do. I had a ring in a building, so say, oh, I guess training's starting early, and then she got really, really good. And then like now she has like 4 titles in her room. I'm like, she got this title, that title. She's all over Georgia. She's, been to Japan twice. She's the first female gaijin ever to be on Noah. She goes to Puerto Rico and wrestles down there in New York, LA, and she's great. Check her out. JazzyYang.com.
I know you're very proud of her, and I'd imagine you've been giving her words of encouragement for stepping in the ring and being in the ring, because you don't really see a lot of second generation talents, female talents, especially these days. So it must be, what kinds of things are you telling her about, putting in the work, and what kinds of things are you telling her to keep going and stay motivated?
Yeah. The only thing I really tell her, I teach her all the moves and all that kind of stuff, psychology, all that kind of stuff, but only one thing I said, I just want you to be happy. I don't care about anything else. I just want you to be happy. If you're happy doing professional wrestling, I'm happy for you. If you're happy doing something else, I'd be happy for you doing something else. It's not no pressure about being, a professional wrestler to take after your dad and all this kinds of, a lot of people think that's, oh, she's doing it because of you. I said, no, like if she didn't want to, I have no problem if she was, a nurse or flipping hamburgers or whatever kind of thing. It's like, it's no problem. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters to me. So.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're, passionate about what you do, you can make it. So that's very exciting, see what she's doing, what you're doing. Jimmy, I want to say thank you so much for coming on to the show. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you and how they can get the book?
Okay, so the book dropped today on Amazon. The ebooks on Amazon, the audiobooks on Spotify, Apple, Barnes and Noble, other ones. I don't know. The print book is on yangsdojo.com, so it's on my school's website. So yeah, it's out there, I hope you guys enjoy it. It's like, if you don't, okay, that's fine, but just always remember, I'm Jimmy Wang Yang, and I'm always your boy. Yeah!
All right. Well, thanks again, Jimmy, and you're more than welcome to come back.
All right. Thanks, brother.
All right. Take care.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.